Let's dig deeper into Beijing's ban and the global campaign to stamp out smoking. Joining us from Beijing is Angela Pratt. She leads the Tobacco-Free Initiative at the World Health Organization's China office. Angela, you're there. We've talked about the numbers, lots and lots of smokers in China. Can you tell us about the smoking culture there?
Sure. It's certainly the case that smoking is very much the social norm here, especially for men, but not so for women. More than half of men smoke, but only 2% of women smoke. So I don't think that smoking culture is really any more ingrained in China than in other places in the world. And that's why smoke-free laws are so important, because they can start to change that culture. Lots of men smoke, but lots of women don't. And there are lots of people who don't want to be exposed to secondhand smoke. That's why this new law in Beijing is very important, and why we're very happy to see it being implemented this week.
Why do you think the political push at this time?
Well, I think that there is an increasing realisation amongst China's leaders that this is the right thing to do, that tobacco use is a terrible public health problem, takes a terrible toll on the health system, but also on the broader economy. I think there's increasing recognition of that and the need to reduce tobacco rates in order for China to be a healthier China in keeping with the government leaders' aspirations and vision for China in the future.
We were talking about the numbers, hundreds of millions of smokers in China. It's easy, cheap access. The prices, as we just heard, very, very cheap. What are some of the challenges facing the country in terms of this ban, would you say?
You've just mentioned one of them. Affordability of cigarettes is a very big challenge. Cigarettes here are very cheap and in fact have become more affordable over time as people's incomes have risen, as China's economy has expanded, but cigarette prices have not. However, we have seen some movement on this. Just in the last few weeks, the government announced a tobacco taxation increase, a very modest increase, but an increase nonetheless, and one that will be passed on to tobacco prices, so that's very positive. In terms of the Beijing smoke-free law, enforcement will be a challenge. There's no question about that. Beijing is a very big city with millions of venues, establishments to ensure compliance. But we saw in your lead-in story, the health inspectors are out and about ensuring compliance with the law. We have a very strong law, which makes a big difference to the enforcement effort. Tough penalties, especially on owners and managers of establishments that don't comply. And we have political will and political commitment to ensure this succeeds. So it will be a challenge, no question about that. But here in Beijing now, we do have some of the essential ingredients that will help to make it a success. So we're very optimistic.
Angela, I'm sure you look at the global landscape. Are there some cities or countries that have seen success in this? What's likely to happen over time? How effective is something like this?
Well, the lesson from around the world is that if you have a strong law, a comprehensive law that doesn't have loopholes and exemptions, and a law that has strong penalties, especially penalties that create incentives for the owners and managers of businesses to comply, that there will be success. And that's what we have in Beijing. We've seen that in other places around the world, other places where people said it couldn't be done. Ireland is one example. People said it would never work in Ireland because people enjoyed going to the pub and having a cigarette. Well, it did work in Ireland because they had a strong law, a strong enforcement effort, and strong political commitment to ensure that it succeeded. Russia is a more recent example. Russia, a higher smoking rate per capita than China even. Russia has been implementing a smoke-free law, and the early results there are very positive, very high rates of compliance. The early data is suggesting that this new law is having an impact on the smoking rate. So there are lessons from around the world that Beijing and China can look to. Strong law, strong enforcement, political will, and the lessons are that if those three things are in place, that the law should be a success, and that's what we hope to see here in Beijing.
Angela Pratt joining us from Beijing. Thanks so much. Really appreciate it.